Frank Childs, one of the very few boxers to actually face a prime Peter Jackson and a prime Jack Johnson. Frank Childs sparred an exhibition with Peter Jackson in February of 1894. Peter Jackson's age, 33 years old. Frank Childs was 26 years old. 1902, he fought a match with Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson was 24 years old, and Frank Childs was 10 years past the Peter Jackson age of 26, and he was 36 years old. So there you have it. Frank Childs, one of the very few fighters to ever face a very prime Peter Jackson and a very prime Jack Johnson. Frank Childs gained numerous notoriety through the Peter Jackson sparring session, and he increasingly found it very difficult to find himself opponents to box, as he had developed a reputation after knocking out George LeBlanc and sparring with Peter Jackson of being somebody of high credentials, and several of the current boxers may have avoided him temporarily, costing him some of his prime. I'm going to give a quick summary here from a book entitled The World Colored Heavyweight Championship. I'm going to do some reading from that book, and I'm going to do that now. And this is talking about the Peter Jackson exhibition match right here, right out of the book. Greetings. I'm going to do a quick reading here from the World Colored Heavyweight Championship. And this is the beginning of Chapter 5, talking about the crafty Texan Frank Childs. Although the details are sketchy, it would be a mature and handsome Frank Childs who would journey westward in search of a better life. For this son of an ex-slave, innate fear of human subrogation had found a home in his soul. Standing a compact 5 foot 9.5 inches, Childs weighed about 180 pounds. Blessed with good genetics, he had a solid, well-developed legs and fantastic arm structure, the latter enabling him to thrust short, powerful blasts with precision. Like many young adults, Childs was searching for answers. If that meant picking up a few dollars during a ring challenge, then such was the case. He set out for New Mexico, then on to California, climbing into the ring and defeating a seasoned fighter, George the Marine LeBlanc, early in 1892, brought a level of acceptance for the youngster. If Frank Childs wanted to learn his craft, trial by fire was certainly an option. At first, he was pinballing between pugilistic epicenters of Los Angeles and San Francisco. Building a reputation as accepted wasn't always convenient, but he needed to become familiar with the West Coast fight scene. At one point, he and noted heavyweight Australian champion Billy Smith were scheduled to meet, but the turnout was so they declined to do battle. It was too much too soon. Yet California brought much opportunity, more opportunity than Texas, and that suited Frank Childs just fine. Frank Childs versus Peter Jackson, an exhibition. Lackluster indeed, but for Childs it was still Peter Jackson, the Black Prince, and that added instant credibility to his resume. As for the Australian, at this stage of his career, he sought only a lucrative battle with James Corbett. He stated, "I shall fight no one again but James Corbett," and he doesn't seem anxious for it. It's rather late in the day for him to be drawing the color line, and after having fought me for over 3 hours. And that is the intro there for the crafty Texan out of the World Heavyweight Championship book. So at 31 years old, Frank Childs won the colored heavyweight championship belt. He won that from Bob Armstrong, and in his corner, Bob Armstrong was a known sparring partner. He sparred with Tom Sharkey, who was in his corner after Frank Childs won the heavyweight champion. Tom Sharkey declared that he would indeed meet Frank Childs for a match, and that would be happening in 1899, although the match never materialized. Now, Frank Childs was one of the first wave of black heavyweight and light heavyweight and middleweights that came up prior to Jack Johnson and Sam Langford. Frank Childs rose up in the ranks with Bobby Dobbs, Joe Butler, Bob Armstrong, Hank Griffin, Denver Ed Martin, Klondike Hayes. All these were black fighters that were just prior to the Jack Johnson really getting launched. In Frank Childs, as I stated, actually was able to face Jack Johnson in 1902, right in the beginning, when Johnson fought him for the colored heavyweight championship title and took the championship away from Frank Childs in the year 1902 with a 12-round TKO loss for Frank Childs. And that was the end of his title-holding aspirations as the black heavyweight champion. Childs was a little bit over his prime then. He was 36 years old. And Childs really never materialized a lot of his prime. I think there's a case to be made that had he been quite a bit younger when he was matched up with some of the more significant matches in his life, he may have been potentially better than he may have appeared. Frank Childs had a few level ups with Dan Creedon and Joe Choyensky and Jack Johnson there and Denver Ed Martin. And each of these matches, Frank Childs came up short, and he had quite a bit of power for more than the average middleweights, and he was a rather crude boxer with some rather poor defense, which cost him as far as being able to the more advanced boxers because he was self-taught. But he was a very successful fighter for being self-taught. And also, one of his peers would be a fighter that's very similar ranked with him, that he originally fought for the colored heavyweight championship also, in George Byers. So Frank Childs had the power, more power than George Byers, and George Byers had the defense, a lot more advanced defense than Frank Childs. And together, the two of them matched together, produced some fabulous rounds of boxing as you had the contrast of two different approaches. And that is the historical overview of the boxer, the crafty Texan Frank Childs. You're welcome to click here for a longer, more advanced career biography of Frank Childs as I go through his fights individually if you have more time. Thank you.